So next we're going to make a tomato sauce with turkey meatballs for some spaghetti, and I like to call this my Sunday gravy. So what I start with is um, this is 4 carrots, 4 celery stalks, and 2 large onions, finely diced. And I'm going to add that to a pot where I've filmed the bottom of a pan with olive oil. And stir that around. And I'm going to cook that over medium-high heat until the vegetables have turned golden and brown slightly. While that's cooking, let's turn our attention to the turkey meatballs. Now, I know there are people out there who are completely anti-turkey meatball. They think they're very dry and bland, and I promise you, if you make these turkey meatballs, you will find that they're very moist and very flavorful. So what I start with are about, I'd say, 10 slices of just some white bread, crust cut off, cut up. Basically, I just ran them in the food processor until they became breadcrumbs. And to that, I added about 4 tablespoons of whole milk. And I let that soak for a few minutes. To that mixture, I'm going to add roughly 1 cup of grated Parmesan, one cup of grated Romano, about 1.5 cups of chopped parsley, about a tablespoon of chopped garlic, and 4 beaten eggs. To that, I'm going to add a tablespoon of salt, because this is a lot of meatballs. So a tablespoon of salt, and I would say about 2 teaspoons of freshly ground pepper. Just going to mix that together with a spoon to incorporate all those ingredients. Okay, so it will look like this. To that, I'm going to add 1 pound of white meat turkey, ground up. And 1 pound of dark meat turkey. And now there really is no better way to do this than with your hands. This is why, again, impeccably clean hands are very important in the kitchen. But this is really the best way to get everything incorporated. And you don't want to overmix it because that will make the meatballs tough. Really, you just want to incorporate the meat into the bread and egg mixture as quickly as possible, while making sure that everything is evenly mixed and incorporated. That looks good. Ugh. See, very messy. But again, you're not going to get a better mix for your meatballs or meatloaf or pate if you're making that than you will by using your hands. Washing my hands since I was mixing raw meat. And now I'm going to turn back to the sauce. So our vegetables are beginning to get golden and brown. But again, I want to see those vegetables really reduce some more and get a little more cooking to them. So I'm going to let that go for another few minutes and check on it. And I'm a firm believer in the old adage, the nose knows. So just keep recognizing the smells, and if it smells like it's getting done, check on it. So now it's time to form our meatballs. So what I'm going to do is take some parchment paper, line a cookie sheet, and begin forming my meatballs. And just going to turn back to my sauce and give it a stir, just to make sure the vegetables aren't burning. The vegetables look a little dry, so I'm going to add a little more olive oil. Just a touch. Just so they get good and brown. Okay, back to the meatballs. So, again, with your hands, you're just going to form them. But if you're really squeamish about using your hands, I'll show you another interesting trick, which is to take a small ice cream scoop and just drop them onto the sheet. And you're going to get a perfectly round meatball, and they're all going to be uniform in size every time. And you don't have to spend your time with your hands full of this meat mixture. And again, if you're looking for perfectly shaped meatballs, this is a great trick. And you'll get out of this recipe, let's see, about 48 meatballs if you use a small ice cream scoop, which is great because you can they freeze beautifully. Just after they're cooked, put them in a plastic bag, a freezer bag. Make sure to pack them tightly, squeeze out any excess air, and then pop them in the freezer, and they'll be good for, I'd say, a month. But again, you want to cook them first before you do that. Cook them and then freeze them. So there are our meatballs, ready to go into the oven. And let's turn back to the sauce. So the vegetables are now golden and have gotten a little brown. So I'm now going to add about a tablespoon of garlic. This is a teaspoon here, so I'm adding about 3 teaspoons of garlic, which is around a tablespoon. The great thing about cooking is there's really no exact measurements like there are in bacon, and I love garlic, so that explains why I'm single. So just gonna stir the garlic into the vegetables just until they're fragrant, like less than a minute. You don't want to burn the garlic because that will make the sauce bitter. I can smell the garlic. That smells really good. So now I'm going to add 32 ounces of just some store-bought chicken stock. And about 3/4 or so of a bottle of white wine. Really, any wine you would drink. This happens to be a Chardonnay. I'm going to stir that, scraping down the bottom of the pan to get any of those caramelized brown bits of vegetables because that's really going to enhance the flavor of the sauce. And then to that, I'm going to add 2 bay leaves. And I'm going to let that simmer until it reduces by half. Now this step is very unorthodox, and my grandmother is probably rolling over in her grave right now because she would never do this. Her tomato sauce was basically just sauteed onions and garlic, bay leaves, and then tomato. I've added the celery, carrots, and onions, which is also known as a mirepoix or the Holy Trinity, and it's the basis for really a lot of sauces and stews, and I find that it really gives a really great flavor to tomato sauce. Same with the chicken stock and white wine. Again, not a step my grandmother would use, not traditional Italian by any means, but again, I do think it richens and enhances the sauce. So we're going to let that simmer until it's reduced by half. Okay, the wine and chicken stock mixed with the cooked carrot, celery, onion, and garlic has been cooking away for about half an hour, and as you can see, it's really reduced to a quarter of the volume it was before. It's really, you can see the thickness of the vegetables, but still, it's still got some liquid, and that's exactly what we want. So to this, I'm going to add the tomatoes, and I make a very large sauce because my philosophy is cook on Sunday, and then when you get home from work during the week, you don't have to go crazy in the kitchen starting from scratch. You can just reheat some things and have a really good home-cooked meal without slaving in the kitchen for hours after you've worked all day, which is the last thing I want to do. So again, very large pan, very large tomato sauce. So I'll show you the cans. I make my tomato sauce with 2 of these size cans, and these are 90 ounces each of tomatoes. I have taken those tomatoes, crushed them by hand, and I'm going to add them to the mixture. That's 1, and this is 2. And again, as you can see, that filled my pan to the top. So what I will do is let this cook down a little bit, transfer half of this sauce to another pan, and then cook the other half in this pan, and I'll freeze that other half of sauce, which I can then use really anytime I want. I can just take it out of the freezer, and I have nice homemade tomato sauce anytime I want. So I'm just going to stir this together to incorporate all the ingredients. And to this sauce, I'm going to add a few secret ingredients. One is a tablespoon of chicken bouillon. And one is the back of a Parmesan cheese. Again, those are really just flavor enhancers. There's just something about them that adds a taste to the sauce that you can't quite put your finger on, but you know it's there and you know it's delicious. Okay, to the tomato sauce, I've added a teaspoon of salt and a teaspoon of black pepper, and I'm just going to stir that. And now I'm going to give it a taste to see if it, just check it for seasoning. That's delicious. Just the right amount of seasoning. Doesn't need anything else. So now I'm going to let it come to a simmer and then basically let it cook for about 2 hours, 2 or 3 hours, until it's reduced a little bit and all the flavors have melded together. Okay, my sauce has been cooking now for half an hour, and it's just simmering on the stove, and I've transferred about a quarter of it to a second pan so that I can add my meatballs to this pan. And the meatballs are out of the oven, and so what I did was I cooked these at 400 degrees for half an hour to 40 minutes, and midway through I turned them so they would get nice and brown on both sides. And I will just take a small one and give it a taste. Mmm. Mmm. I'm begging you to try these meatballs. They are so delicious and so flavorful. And again, there's no beef, veal, or pork in them. It's just brown white meat and dark meat turkey. And they're baked, not fried. So it's really a healthy alternative to your average meatball. And trust me, you're not going to miss the other kind. So good. Okay. They actually don't even need tomato sauce. You could put these on a toothpick and serve them as an appetizer, and they're just really good. Okay. I'm now going to add these to my tomato sauce. So again, impeccably clean hands. Just pop them in the sauce. And what I'm going to do is, with that other pan of meatballs, as I mentioned previously, I'm just going to, once they're cool, put them in a freezer bag and freeze them so that if I'm making sauce again and I don't feel like making meatballs, or if I want to make chicken soup with meatballs, or if I'm having a party and I want a quick appetizer, I can just defrost them and that'll be it. So I've added my meatballs, and then what I also did was I fried some hot and mild chicken sausage. Cooked it for about half an hour, 15 minutes per side, until they were nice and golden brown. And I'm going to, basically with a very sharp scissor, cut them into bite-sized pieces. Like so. And add those to my sauce. And the reason I'm doing that is the meat actually enhances the flavor of the sauce. Now, if I were making a true marinara sauce, I would not add any of this meat or meatballs to the sauce, because you're really trying to make a vegetarian sauce. And with a vegetarian marinara, if I were cooking for one of my vegetarian friends, I would just use vegetable stock instead of turkey stock or chicken stock. Again, adding the sausage with my impeccably clean hands. Always so careful. But look, folks, when you're holding the camera with one hand and cooking with the other, you have to catch as catch can. All right, so just going to stir that all together. And now I'm going to let that cook for about 2 hours, and then the sauce will be finished. And just boil some spaghetti according to the package directions, and when it's al dente, add a little bit of the sauce to it, and then serve it with the meatballs and some sausage and some nice crusty French bread. That would have been sacrilege. Nice crusty Italian bread, obviously. And that's it. There's your dinner. So there you go. 2 pasta sauces. We had the basil aioli, and I will endeavor to do a video clip of how I take that basil aioli and turn it into an asparagus carbonara some night this week when I get home from work. And again, just spaghetti and meatballs. There's your tomato sauce, and that will be for tonight. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.